This is our time. The main news at this hour in the studio, Yulia Gorovaya. Hello. 15 people, including 4 children, were injured as a result of a Russian drone attack on Sumy. Within 1 hour, the enemy launched 10 drones at the city. Civilian infrastructure was also hit. Damage was recorded to a 9-story building and a 2-story residential house in different parts of the city. People whose homes were destroyed are receiving the necessary assistance. Since the beginning of the year, the Russians have carried out more than 1,000 strikes on Sumy. 72 people have been killed and 434 wounded. 8 people were also killed and 19 wounded as a result of the Russian attack on Donetsk region. This was reported by the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. In one day, the police recorded more than 2,000 strikes. 9 settlements came under fire. 59 civilian objects were destroyed, including 42 residential houses. The Russians struck Kramatorsk with an Iskander-M missile and 2 drones. 1 person was killed and 4 were wounded. In Sloviansk, 3 people were killed and 3 more wounded after an artillery strike. In Mykolaiv, an energy facility was attacked and 2 employees were killed. Russia dropped 5 bombs on Kostiantynivka. 2 civilians were killed. Russian strikes damaged stations that are important for Ukraine's nuclear safety. According to the IAEA on October 30th, facilities that play a key role in the country's nuclear safety were hit by shelling. Thus, at the South Ukrainian and Khmelnytskyi nuclear power plants, access to one of the external power lines has been lost. At the Rivne nuclear power plant, the output of 2 out of 4 power units has been reduced at the request of the grid operator.
The threats to nuclear safety remain very real and unchanged. Once again, I urge maximum military caution in areas adjacent to nuclear facilities. I also ask that the 7 fundamental principles of nuclear safety and security be observed. Rafael Grossi is the Director General of the IAEA.
Russia has used a cruise missile against Ukraine that it developed in secret. It was precisely because of this that in 2019, US President Donald Trump decided to withdraw from the Nuclear Arms Control Pact. This was reported by Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha in a comment to Reuters. Since August of this year, Russian occupiers have launched such missiles more than 20 times. In addition, Ukraine recorded 2 launches of this missile in 2022. Its range significantly exceeds the permitted 500 kilometers. At the same time, the missile is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead and has the potential to strike targets at distances of up to 2,500 kilometers. Ukraine and its allies are jointly developing a peace plan. This will be a single document. There are no alternative plans from individual countries. This was stated by the head of the office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak. According to him, there are ongoing working discussions, but all partners remain in constant communication. The document will take Ukraine's interests into account, Yermak emphasized.
This is not about competing initiatives. It's about finding synergy between Ukraine, the EU, the US, and other partners. Of course, the participation of the United States is fundamental. Presidents and European leaders agree that any negotiations must begin with a ceasefire along the current line of contact. All partners believe that, for diplomats to work effectively, the fighting must be stopped. We highly value President Trump's leadership as a peacemaker and believe that he is the one who can help Ukraine achieve a just, lasting peace backed by reliable security guarantees. Andriy Yermak, head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, in a comment to RBC Ukraine.
President Donald Trump's statement speaks for itself. This is how U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance commented on the order from the head of the White House to resume nuclear testing. According to him, the U.S. closely cooperates even with countries with whom they don't have the best relations. And all of this is done to limit the spread of nuclear weapons. And the tests are conducted to make sure that everything is functioning properly.
As you know, we have a large arsenal. The Russians and the Chinese also have a large nuclear arsenal. Sometimes you need to check it to make sure it's functioning properly. We work very closely even with those countries with whom we don't have the best relations in an effort to limit the spread of nuclear weapons. The President will continue to work on this, but a key component of U.S. national security is the proper functioning of our nuclear arsenal. And that's part of the testing. Let me clarify. We know that it works properly, but it needs to be constantly monitored.
Meanwhile, Germany is urging the US and Russia to refrain from nuclear weapons testing. According to Foreign Minister Johann Wadefuhl, Trump's statement is more of a reaction to the fact that Russia has used a nuclear-powered system in the past. It's important that all 5 nuclear-armed states continue to observe the testing moratorium, Waitful added. A 6 trillion ruble budget deficit does not threaten Russia's stability. At least, that's the opinion of Federation Council Speaker Valentina Matvienko. According to the budget amendments, in 2025, Russian state revenues will be almost 2 trillion rubles below the plan. But in Matvienko's view, the largest budget deficit in the country's history is by no means a sign of crisis. However, the official herself has nothing to worry about when it comes to money, nor do Putin's inner circle or any of his top propagandists. Victoria Chistyakina knows who in Russia is profiting from the war against Ukraine.
In December 2022, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova purchased a 150-square-meter apartment in a building on Bolshaya Dmitrovka in central Moscow, according to the publication Explainer, which cites internal documents from Rosregister. This is not just any building, but a revenue house of the Moscow Society for Loans on Collateral, built in 1905.
The Revenue House is located directly across from the building of the Prosecutor General's Office of the Russian Federation and is right next to the security checkpoint of the supervisory agency. Today, the building is a federally significant architectural monument and is protected by the state. The house is notable for its large apartments, ranging from 5 to 10 rooms. One of these apartments is located on the top, 5th floor. Its area is 151 square meters. Judging by the price per square meter in the Revenue House, its value exceeds 160 million rubles. Until 2022, this apartment belonged to the city of Moscow. From an Explainer publication,
Zakharova's colleagues in the propaganda field, Yevgeny Popov and Olga Skabiva, are not far behind her. They bought a mansion in an elite Moscow suburb for 150 million rubles, according to the Insider. Since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the incomes of propagandists have increased by at least 1.5 times.
According to the Insider, Olga Skabiva's current salary is about 1,850,000 rubles per month, or 22,300,000 per year. The last time the couple's income was publicly disclosed before this was in 2021. At that time, Skabiva received 15,200,000. After that, information about the earnings of State Duma deputies' families, including Yevgeny Popov, was classified. From the Insider's publication,
Corruption schemes in Russia are growing and getting stronger. The so-called nationalization launched by the Kremlin after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine has led to the redistribution of assets in favor of Putin's friends. Members of the Ozero Cooperative received assets totaling 235 billion rubles, according to calculations by journalists from Novaya Gazeta.
Since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Prosecutor General's office has filed 145 lawsuits to seize private businesses in favor of the state, totaling 4.5 trillion rubles. In almost half of the cases, the assets remain under direct state ownership. Among those who receive confiscated assets are almost exclusively people from Putin's inner circle. The Kovalchuks, the Rotenbergs, major state companies like VTB or Gazprom, almost all of them are former members of the Ozero Cooperative and are among the potential beneficiaries of businesses already seized through prosecutors' lawsuits. From a publication by Novaya Gazeta, Europe.
The result of Russia's prolonged war against Ukraine, Western sanctions pressure, and systemic corruption has been a crisis in the Russian economy. In the first 9 months of 2025, the economy grew by only 1%, 4 times less than the previous year. Industrial growth rates have slowed by a factor of 11. This is evidenced by data from the Ministry of Economic Development.
Putin's main calculation is that the Russian people will endure, and that's why they will be robbed. Their money will be taken away from them. This is happening in every possible way right now. In other words, there isn't a single aspect of life in Russia where people aren't being charged more. For the past 2 days, there's been a discussion about threats related to electricity. In Russia, there is a tiered payment system for electricity. There is a certain initial level of consumption that has the lowest tariff rate, but now they want to cut it by about 3 times. So, for many families, their consumption will increase significantly.
Since economic growth is slowing and incomes are shrinking, Moscow can no longer ramp up budgetary stimulus and is instead implementing harsh austerity measures that threaten to completely strangle the civil sector. Victoria Chistiakina for Freedom TV channel.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.